Hi, folks. Welcome back. Today is election day here in California, and in many parts of the country, it is primary day, the first step toward the midterm elections. Yes, you heard that right. It's 2026, and the midterms are already upon us. By the end of the year, and especially heading into July, there should be some very interesting elections to watch. As many of you know, I am running for Congress in California's 30th District, which includes Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, Hollywood, and Sunland. Before we get into today's topic, if you're in California and still looking for a place to vote, there is still time as this video is being published where I'm located. The polls close at 8 p.m., so make sure to click the Secretary of State link that I've added to the pinned comment below to find your polling location and get any information you need. Now, with that out of the way, there has been a whole hubbub about the Los Angeles mayoral race. We've discussed Karen Bass to exhaustion on this channel, her countless blunders, her absolute disregard for the safety of the people of Los Angeles, and her complete inability to take any sort of accountability. In fact, I don't even think the word accountability actually exists in her dictionary. Karen Bass's version of the dictionary, in fact, is just deflect, blame somebody else. That's all. She's only got 4 words in there. That's all she does, by the way. Mess everything up, then deflect and blame somebody else. Needless to say, that trick doesn't seem to be working quite as well anymore because we've got Spencer Pratt in time. You know, hit her right in the Pratt. That's what you say if you vote for Pratt, apparently. Anyway, Spencer Pratt, the well-known reality star from The Hills, who last year lost his home in the Palisades fire, has really been taking it to the political establishment here in Los Angeles ever since. He's been going after Newsom and Karen Bass, and as we covered here a few days ago, he officially joined the mayoral race in California. Since then, it has been a complete disaster for Karen Bass and Nithya Raman. Raman being the other visible candidate in this race. And look, technically, there are other candidates outside of these 3, but they're not really worth mentioning because they all suck. Anyway, Nithya Raman is essentially the 3rd major figure in this contest. She's very much a DSA-type politician, similar to Karen Bass, except she wasn't part of this old communist brigade that Karen Bass was a part of. She skipped all of her training down in Cuba with Fidel. Needless to say, Nithya has also been a highly ineffective politician here in Los Angeles. She's been on the city council for the last 6 years and accomplished absolutely nothing. That's Nithya Raman for you. If her name were in the same dictionary as Karen Bass, it'd be right next to does nothing. That's literally Nithya Raman. Today, we're going to look at some of the closing statements and arguments being made by these candidates, particularly Karen Bass and Nithya Raman. Spencer Pratt specifically is speaking to a lot of the frustrations and grievances people in Los Angeles are feeling for the last couple of years. You can walk through neighborhoods all over the city, including areas outside of central Los Angeles, and his message is resonating with a lot of families and a lot of common sense folks. Karen Bass, on the other hand, is clearly being held up by the Democrat establishment. Meanwhile, Nithya Raman represents more of the DSA wing, the Democrat Socialist insurgency within the Democrat Party. Nithya walks that Mamdani lane, which is funny because Karen Bass is already pretty far down the left herself. But I guess once you go left, you can always keep going further left off the cliff. These people don't seem to have a stopping point when it comes to their progressivism, aka Marxism. They're willing to keep moving further and further off the cliff. They've eventually walked themselves right off. Anyway, folks, let's start with Karen Bass and one of the statements she made in her closing arguments for this race.
My final message to voters is, in the last few years, we brought down homelessness for the first time, 2 years in a row. 42,000 units of housing, crime rates down to 60 years low. We have the Olympics and the World Cup coming. Los Angeles is ready for an incredible recovery.
Hey, Karen, just right off the bat, why does Los Angeles need a recovery? You've literally been in office for the last 4 years, and you're saying Los Angeles is going to start recovering? Recover from what exactly? Recover from whom? Recover from you? Recover from your leadership? Recover from the policies you've been implementing while you've been sitting at the helm of this city, or rather sitting at your hands at the helm of this city? Is that seriously the pitch? Is that your closing argument, Miss Bass? Also, it's crazy because Karen has what can only be described as an insane Freudian slip right off the bat. She says she eliminated housing. Eliminated housing? This woman eliminated housing? Yes. In a lot of ways, she did. Entire neighborhoods burned down in the Palisades. Tens of thousands of homes were lost. She immediately tries to correct herself and say homelessness, but she literally said it. She says she's eliminated housing. The slip is honestly incredible. Anybody who votes for Bass after the last 4 years has some serious explaining to do.
Well, Angelenos are feeling that this city is moving in the wrong direction. What I'm offering is urgency to tackle the issues that are at the forefront of people's minds and a real plan to address our cost of living crisis and our homelessness crisis.
And what are those issues, Nithya? Why don't you name them? Also, what exactly is your plan? Why don't you say anything concrete? You've been in office for 6 years and have done literally nothing to show for. Nothing. You can't even point to a specific accomplishment on your own closing argument. Instead, it's basically, hey guys, guess what? Sunshine and rainbows. I'm going to make everything better. Here's a picture book. Now go paint it. Here's some crayons. Go figure all that out. Now don't look over here though. Mommy's got to chug a gallon of Jack. Anyway, folks, it's absolutely insane that this is Nithya Raman's closing argument. This is the epitome of saying something without actually saying anything. It's pure political word salad, straight out of the Kamala Harris playbook. Lots of vague promises, lots of feel-good language, and absolutely nothing concrete behind it. Why should any reasonable person vote for this insane individual? They don't even have a plan. She doesn't even identify what the issues are. She's basically saying, hey guys, I know things are bad in Los Angeles, but can you point here on the screen where it hurts? Please, so I know at least what I'm talking about. That's the level of specificity we're dealing with here. No solutions, no priorities, no measurable goals, no accomplishments from the last 6 years to point to as evidence that any of her plans are going to work. Just vague rhetoric and generic promises that everything will somehow get better if you put her in charge. Absolutely insane. Anyway, Karen Bass later took shots at Nithya Raman and Spencer Pratt, saying this.
No time for amateurs. We don't need a TV reality show villain, nor do we need a former councilwoman who has been in City Hall twice as long as I have and who is okay with tents in the street.
Well, you know, common sense would agree with Karen Bass here if the person saying this stuff wasn't actually worse than the two people she's criticizing. That's the problem. In a vacuum, you'd hear that argument and think, okay, yeah, fair enough. But then you remember who's actually saying all this stuff. It is genuinely insane that the bar for mayor of Los Angeles has gotten so low that the actual sitting mayor is somehow less qualified for the job than an unqualified city council member who spent 6 years accomplishing virtually nothing. It is even more thoroughly insane that these two choices are somehow less qualified than the reality star who spent $10 million on crystals. This is the end times, folks. Anyway, Nithya Raman responded to Bass. This is what she had to say.
I have demonstrated my capacity for delivering results in my time as a council member and as a legislator that has led the city.
Raman, name one thing you've accomplished. Challenge, difficulty level, impossible. You can't do it. You got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Watching her campaign is like watching a magician desperately trying to distract the audience, saying, hey, look over here under my sleeve. Ha, gotcha. It was actually under my other sleeve. Ha, nope, got you again. It was actually under my shirt. Nope, gotcha again. It's actually behind your ear. Oops. You know what? I don't actually know how to do this trick. Sorry for fooling you. Anyway, can I have a paycheck? That's literally the dynamic that's playing out here. Every time you're looking for an accomplishment, a result, a policy success, or anything tangible from the last 6 years from Nithya Raman, the answer is always somewhere else. It's always another excuse, another deflection, another vague promise about what she's going to do in the future with flowers and rainbows instead of what she's actually done. Nithya Raman is by far one of the most unqualified people seeking higher office in all of Los Angeles history. The only reason she has any chance at all, as I mentioned earlier, is because she's running in a city where the current office holder is Karen Bass, who's, funny enough, an anarcho-communist with the sole goal of destroying the city. Because, look, she's been trained to do it. As the saying goes, old habits die hard. Imagine if you put Fidel Castro to run any city in America. He would have done the same. She's only following her fearless leader. You can't blame her, folks. Anyway, Spencer Pratt also responded. He said this.
She says it's not time for amateur hour.
Agree. That's why I'm running. She failed us. She was in Ghana when she should have been the mayor and let 7,000 homes burn to the ground due to literal negligence.
Yeah, not gonna lie, Karen gave Spencer that layup straight up. She basically said, hey, Spencer, Here's something you can use against me. She basically just handed it to him. And it seems like Karen Bass is about as dumb as she is ineffective, because we literally saw a moment earlier where she essentially confessed that she's reducing housing in Los Angeles instead of saying homeless. I know she meant to say homeless, and she immediately corrected herself, but that's the point. Of all the things to accidentally say, that's the one that came out after you literally allowed thousands of homes to burn throughout the city. I mean, we just watched a sitting mayor in the middle of trying to defend her record accidentally say something that her critics, especially Spencer Pratt, have been accusing her of for years. Whether it was a Freudian slip or just a verbal mistake, it was absolutely brutal. Now, look, here's the thing. And this isn't to disrespect Spencer Pratt or anything, but the leadership in Los Angeles is so feckless, so ineffective, and so openly hostile to the well-being of the city that almost anybody can make a compelling argument against them. The people currently running Los Angeles have done such a terrible job and have shown such contempt for the things that make this city and this country function that the bar is sitting somewhere beneath the floor. You could quite literally run a glass of water against Karen Bass and it would win. You could quite literally run my pug, Apollo, against Karen Bass, and he would whoop her ass. And honestly, that's how thoroughly disliked these people are.
My opponents are the reason the city's failing. So anything they say is just more lies. They know with me, we're changing what's going on. We're stopping it. So it's not like a closing argument. They're already excited about me. The reason I'm here is because I'm not like these people. I don't have the experience of failing like they have.
Again, the bar is super low, and I feel like I have to keep saying this because I know some people are going to hear it as an indirect shot at Spencer Pratt. It's not. Spencer represents a lot of what many families and everyday people in Los Angeles are feeling right now. He's communicating frustrations that I personally felt and frustrations that I've communicated myself on this channel many times over. But the reality is that the bar has become so incredibly low for Los Angeles politics. And Spencer points this out himself. The bar is low and people are fed up. They're tired of watching the same politicians fail upward year after year while the city continues moving in the wrong direction and just falling to absolute decay. I genuinely don't understand how Los Angeles and California keep voting for the same reckless politicians, the same people who time and time again are given opportunity after opportunity as they give themselves pay raises, bonuses, and every imaginable benefit, all while asking Californians to pay more and receive less. These are the same politicians who have stripped parental rights, made California one of the most expensive places in America to live in, one of the most difficult places to start and operate a business, one of the most expensive places to drive in, one of the most expensive places to buy a home, to own a home, or even to renovate that home. At some point, we have to stop and ask ourselves a simple question. Why are we continuing to vote for the same people? That's a question worth asking every election cycle, but especially on a day like today, on primary day. That being said, I think it's genuinely great to see citizens like Spencer Pratt step up and run for office because they're bringing concerns into conversations that otherwise wouldn't be discussed. Without candidates willing to challenge the status quo, these races often become little more than political establishments congratulating themselves and passing power back and forth between the same groups of people. Whether you agree with Spencer on everything or not, he's helping force conversations that many people in Los Angeles have been avoiding having publicly while having them privately for years. These are serious concerns. These are serious conversations, very important conversations, and they deserve to be heard. It's also part of the reason why I decided to run. I was frustrated with the leadership in my district, and frankly, I still am. I've owned a business in Hollywood. I've dealt firsthand with the regulations, the taxes, the bureaucracy, and all the obstacles that make it harder to succeed in California. And when I look around, I honestly don't know how California can continue to thrive if it keeps doubling down on the same policies and the same leadership that created so many of these problems in the first place. At some point, it's time to clean house. It's time to move forward. It's time to support people who actually speak for the people they're supposed to represent. We need more leaders who are focused on the interests of Californians and Angelenos, not leaders who are focused on protecting party establishments or advancing political careers. You guys know that I've stood against the party establishment from the very beginning of my race, and I intend to continue doing so. So with all that being said, I want to thank everybody who went out and voted today. Whether you voted for me or whether you voted for somebody else in my race, whatever you decided to do, I appreciate the fact that you participated in our democratic process. I hope and pray that you stay engaged, you stay informed, and continue working to improve your communities, our communities. Politics has become incredibly heated in recent years, and while strong disagreements are inevitable, I do hope we can lower the temperature a bit and spend more time focusing on the issues and solutions to those issues rather than infighting and just bickering over the ash. Let's truly put America first and work together to restore the American dream. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you have a terrific day. Peace.